Welcome to Daily Office Devotions, where every Monday through Friday we draw insights from that day's scripture readings as given in the Book of Common Prayer. I'm Reggie Kidd, and I'm grateful to be with you. Today is Tuesday of the first week after Pentecost, and our readings come from proper 4 of year 1 in the Daily Office Lectionary. Taken together, today's readings in Deuteronomy and 2 Corinthians put before us the tremendous responsibility of saying no and yes. Deuteronomy calls for the destroying of idols and for the renouncing of an independent spirit when it comes to the worship of Yahweh. Specifically, Moses forbids refusing to come to the place that Yahweh will choose for his worship. But you shall seek the place that the Lord your God will choose out of all your tribes as his habitation to put his name there. You shall go there, and you shall eat there in the presence of the Lord your God, you and your households together, rejoicing in all the undertakings in which the Lord your God has blessed you. Deuteronomy chapter 12, verses 5 and 7. This command looks forward to God's choice of Jerusalem and its future temple as the center for his people's worship. Together there in God's house, a redeemed people make their offerings, including their tithes, in utter gratitude for deliverance from slavery. Together there they eat and drink in the delighted presence of one another and in the delightful presence of the beauty of the holiness of God. Psalm 29, verse 2. Paul has come to understand that the church is now God's new temple. For we are the temple of the living God, as God said, I will live in them and walk among them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 16, quoting Leviticus chapter 26, verse 11. This new temple is made up of people within whom and among whom the Spirit of God, that is God himself, dwells. The church is sacred space that is not to be violated, profaned, taken for granted, or used for the building up of egos or personal fortunes. The situation on the ground in Corinth. Paul has been taken aback by the accusations that have come at him from the Corinthian church, his own spiritual children. Some people have risen among them claiming to be super apostles, 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 5, alleging that their miracles are more spectacular, their credentials more superlative, and their personal impressiveness more the mark of the victorious Christ. In fact, they have infected the Corinthian church with a spirit of triumphalism that claims to be living in the power of Christ's resurrection, but which Paul knows to be bogus. He names these polluters of the church for what they are: false apostles, deceitful workers, disguising themselves as apostles of Christ. And no wonder even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. So it is not strange if his ministers also disguise themselves as ministers of righteousness. 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 13 through 15. Their chief complaints against Paul are that he is unreliable. Remember that he had changed travel plans, weak in demeanor, and unimpressive in rhetoric. He is at pains, therefore, to let the Corinthians know that Christ's life is manifold in the very places where the super apostles have gotten it wrong. The triumph of Christ lies in endurance of afflictions, hardships, calamities, beatings, imprisonments, riots, labors, sleepless nights, hunger. 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 4b and 5. The character of Christ is revealed in purity, knowledge, patience, kindness, holiness of spirit, genuine love, truthful speech, and the power of God. 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 6 and 7a. Christ's kingdom is manifest not when its subjects parade themselves as winners, but rather when they are treated as impostors and yet are true, as unknown and yet are well known, as dying and see we are alive, as punished and yet not killed, as sorrowful yet always rejoicing, as poor yet making many rich, as having nothing and yet possessing everything. 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 8b through 10. And so the necessary no and yes. No to a religion of whatever, of to whom it may concern. No to using God for self-aggrandizement or the propping up of self-image. No to relationships that blur the line between good and evil, justice and injustice, lawfulness and lawlessness, or as Paul puts it in 2 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 1, no to relationships and practices that defile the body, like sexual immorality or drunkenness or gluttony, or to relationships and practices that defile the spirit, like alliances of bitterness or envy, or practices that hybridize or dilute the faith. Yes to worshiping God and doing so His way. Yes to a commitment to Jesus that is just like the wedding vow, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health. Yes to spiritual relationships that promote the true faith and that support godly, just, and holy living. These are some of the most arresting and poignant words Paul ever wrote. I hope they got the Corinthians' attention. They certainly got the attention of the artist Vincent Van Gogh, who built his own life around the phrase, as sorrowful yet always rejoicing. The result was an artistic corpus presenting one of the most radiant visions of Christ's upside-down kingdom anybody has ever seen. I pray that you and I can catch that vision. Be blessed this day.